morning.
Good morning.
Good morning. Nice to see you. Nice to see all of you. So I just wanted to kind of do a little introduction about what this Friday morning group is. There's a lot of new people here this morning, and what we do is we go from 10:30 to 12, and we really set an intention for this group that it's different than the Course in Miracles groups that have been over the years where you get together and you read. We really wanted it to be a place where people were activated, like they were inspired, encouraged, and beginning to practice the principles in their life. So we're here from 10:30 to 12 on Friday morning. Halfway through we take a break, and we just feel that's part of it. It's just a thing about joining and communion. And we invite people to really take the practices that you hear and take them out into your life, and then come back here and really just, share with us what happened. And we've seen so many shifts in perception from the people who are doing that. So we don't talk about the Course here. We introduce a topic. We invite people to share. We often have people come right up here. Like, we want people to shift out of being a student and shift out of the process of transformation, which a lot of spiritual seekers get stuck in, to become, I am the Christ. I am the wholeness that I am, and I am here to demonstrate and declare it. And often in your life, you don't have an opportunity to step into that expression. So for so long, as a habit, you are in a space of, I'm a human being, I'm separate from everything and everyone, I'm sick, I'm tired, I'm lonely, I'm afraid, and it's a place where we all join in the separation, and each and every one of us knows deep, deep down that something's gone seriously wrong, that we meet together to complain, like something's gone wrong. And so it's kind of like the way you needed to learn the alphabet and the way you needed to learn the laws of the world. You need to start to learn the laws of God. And this is a place where you can come and meet with others who are living in this new way. So A Course in Miracles, for you guys that are new here, do you know the Course? And you know it also?
I just started reading it.
Oh, good.
And Francois?
And Francois is here from Montreal. Do you know the
Yes.
Course at all?
I've heard a little bit about it, but I don't know a lot of it.
Okay.
I'm just learning.
Okay, good. Well, beginning mind is the best mind to be in, because you come with blank slate, and that's really a powerful place to be. I'm just going to spend just a little bit before we go on the break, just a little recap of the Course. I also want to introduce something that came up in the retreat, and I found it in the Course, and a lot of people came up to me afterwards and said, where is that? What is that? I didn't know that. So I want to talk about that a little bit. We're going to take a break, and then James is going to come up, and I don't know what you're going to do, but I know it's going to be good.
That's how we do it around here.
Yay! That's how we do it around here. So, James Twyman, he's somebody who's dedicated to this transformation. He's gone through some incredible experiences in his life. I'm not going to give you a story. If you want to share it, you can. He's a best-selling author of many books, and we have them in the bookstore. One of them is called The Moses Code. The Proof is another one. We have Barn Dance in there. If you feel you want to buy these books, the bookstore is not open today, but if you want to write a check, there's 3 copies of The Moses Code, The Proof, and Barn Dance out there. But there's something that is really happening in the world right now, like something where people are starting to say, okay, something new is emerging. Let's join together now. And we watched the Moses Code the other night. We were at a retreat for this past week. There was about 32 of us together. And we ended up watching the Moses Code. It's available on Amazon. And what James did was he brought together some of the top spiritual teachers that are in the world right now And they've all joined together to really express what's emerging now in the world. That this is a new consciousness that's emerging. And so I'm gonna let you talk about it later, but a beautiful job. We loved it.
Yep.
It was just incredible. And all I want to say about the course, for those of you that are new, and even if you've had the course for a long time, I just think this, what I'm about to say, it's like you can never hear it enough. It's just a systematic way to train your mind in a different perception of everyone and everything in the world. So you just recognize that what?
It's so simple.
Yeah, it's so simple. Like you just recognize that in every situation there is another way of looking. If you are not supremely happy, if that is not your condition in the moment, then you are sleeping. You're sleeping. Because you will be brought to an experience of a peace that passeth all understanding. It goes beyond anything you've ever experienced in this world, and it never goes away. There's a joy, like being a child again, with no cares, no worries. And then your body also catches up with the new thinking. So you suddenly feel a vibrancy. There's like suddenly there's more energy, and you start to notice you don't get sick anymore. You start to notice the things that are no longer serving you start to just disappear. Any addictions, and it starts with your thinking. So A Course in Miracles really starts with the premise that everything that you think you see and are experiencing in the world is coming from your own thoughts of separation. So what I want to read today, what I talked about in the retreat, I'm going to read from chapter 28, The Secret Vows. And this is an amazing idea, but what the Course says, and I'm going to read it. It said, before you were born, you made a promise with God. You couldn't have been born without this promise. And it is a promise to find your way back home again to God and to be whole and perfect. And so before you came into this time and space continuum, you were brought before God, and he said, okay, you're going to remember you're whole and perfect. And you said, I will. And in your I will, you were born. And you instantly forgot. But there's not one person who walks this earth who did not make that agreement. They couldn't have been born without that I will. So whenever I meet somebody now, no matter if they're atheist, if they're a murderer, if they're denying this message, it doesn't matter to me because I know they said I will. I know that they made an agreement that they forgot about, and they want it as much as anybody else in this world wants it. And so it's called The Secret Vow. So it's chapter 28, The Undoing of Fear. And it said that you have a secret vow to be separate. You have a secret vow when you decided that you were going to be separate from God. Because God only created love. God only created one Son, whole and complete and perfect. And he gave the Son the power to create like him. And the Son thought he could do it better. This is the story of the prodigal son. That you had everything, and you thought, no, I can do it better. I can do it different. And you wandered away from your inheritance. And the second you wander away, so you're wandering away, it's not a physical wandering away, it's a wandering away from that place in your own mind. And as soon as you wander just one step away from God, you will get the effects of it. You instantly will experiencing the effects of being separate. And a whole world gets created. And you keep wandering further and further and further away from it. And And at that point, it's kind of like the prodigal son, he starts to feel guilty. He thinks, well, now I have to prove I can make it on my own. So that's what we all have been doing here. We kept thinking, okay, if only I can prove that I can be successful in my separation. I can prove that I can find happiness here. And what you will discover is you can't. You cannot find consistent happiness in your separation. So what Jesus says is there's only one thing to do is change your direction. You have to, and most people only come to this place in a devastation. Like you've tried everything and you recognize it works for a little bit, but it just doesn't work. So you come to a place when you're willing to surrender yourself completely. Your mind is open at that point, like you said, okay, I've tried everything. And then in that moment of absolute stopping and the stillness is where a new experience can take place. But you have to stop first. You literally have to come to a place where you have to admit your life's not working. That's actually the first, that's like in AA. I'm powerless. That's the point of your power. I am powerless. And in that place, there's a humbleness that comes. I loved in the Moses Code, they talk about, Michael Beckwith is in it. He's a spiritual leader out there in Los Angeles with the Agape Church, and he said, they were talking about Moses had a speech impediment. So he's a stutterer, some kind of speech impediment, and we had just been talking about that day. We were talking that day about how often people try to get beyond their limitations, that they think my body's not healed, therefore I must be missing something. But God is going to use you in the place where you are with your limitations, and in fact it's your limitations that bring you to the place where that power can be used through you without the ego. So he said it created a humbleness in him. Like he's freeing the Israelites out of Egypt. And they said, can you imagine Moses, and these guys are like, this is our leader? But he became the greatest powerful leader for them because he knew, like, okay, I can't do this without God. So it created an opening in him where now the light could do the work. That Christ energy was the power, the I am power. And so what it says here, I'm going to read from paragraph 5. So it says, sickness is anger taken out upon the body so that it will suffer pain. It is the obvious effect of what was made in secret. So in your secret agreement to be dedicated to death, and the Course in Miracles describes death as everything that is not supremely happy. It's listed in lesson 163 and 167. It's pain, sickness, sorrow, competition, jealousy, anger, anything that's not love is what death is. And the human being has dedicated itself to death. It has dedicated itself to stay separate. So when you have that dedication, you are going to get the effects of it. And that's what sickness is. So it says, it is the obvious effect of what was made in secret, in agreement with another's secret wish to be apart from you as you would be apart from him. So all human beings have made a secret agreement to stay separate. Until one comes along and makes a new agreement that I will be joined with you, that I will no longer remain separate. So it says, unless you both agree that is your wish, it can have no effects. Whoever says there is no gap between my mind and yours, has kept God's promise, not his tiny oath to be forever faithful unto death. And by his healing is his brother healed. So that's how healing is accomplished. In my recognition of my oneness, everything's healed and whole because there's only one mind. So in the Moses Code, in the book and the movie, James takes the word God, G-O-D, and it's giving, oneness, and destiny. And those are like the three main things where you start to recognize, I'm not going to keep myself separate anymore. I'm going to give of myself. I'm going to give my joy, my love, my time. I'm going to give of myself because I have a new agreement, which is to join. That I no longer am going to remain separate. And in that new agreement, that secret vow just dissolves. And so it says, and that's what healing is. And in that healing, you're going to get new effects. And now what I love about this group is so many people are starting to see. Like, we encourage every week for you to start to live in this new way and watch what happens. And one of the things that I was saying this week is you didn't get sick with one negative thought. It didn't happen with one negative thought. It happened over time. It happened by habitual worrying, sadness, depression, judgment, guilt, and as you kept holding that thought system, the body started having, and it gets worse and worse and worse and worse and worse. So the journey home, now the miracle can take place in an instant. So I'm not saying it can't, but often I haven't seen it that way. Often it's like you have to turn a direction and you say, okay, I'm going to be happy no matter what. I'm going to make it my new dedication to remember God from now on. And you turn direction. And then you have to habitually, in the same way you had negative thoughts, you have to habitually have thoughts of truth. And so you slowly start to see the effects changing. You suddenly start to see, oh, like I'm feeling a little bit better. And then you start to see some old habit just fall away. And some old way of being just fall away. Suddenly you're not sarcastic anymore. Suddenly you're not complaining anymore. Suddenly you start to notice you're doing things a little bit differently. You're more generous, you're more trusting, you're more, and as that new thought system takes hold, the effects that you start to see, and it gets really fun. Really fun. You start to see more money coming in. You start to see your body's responding differently. You suddenly don't get sick anymore. You know, this is like, Jesus isn't talking concepts here. He's talking a real experience. And so it says, let this be your agreement with each one, that you be one with him and not apart. And he will keep the promise that you make with him, because it is one that he has made to God, as God has made to him. God keeps his promises, his Son keeps his. In his creation did his Father say, you are beloved of me, and I of you forever. Be you perfect as myself, for you can never be apart from me. His Son remembers not that he replied, I will, though in that promise he was born. Yet God reminds him of it every time he does not share a promise to be sick, but lets his mind be healed and unified. His secret vows are powerless before the will of God, whose promises he shares. And what he substitutes is not his will, who has made promise of himself to God. And then what it says is, The beautiful relationship you have with all your brothers is a part of you because it is a part of God Himself. Are you not sick if you deny yourself your wholeness and your health, the source of help, the call to healing and the call to heal? Your Savior, the Course in Miracles calls your brother, all the people in your world, anyone you think of, your Savior. He's not your enemy. He's not a stranger. He's your Savior. And so the Course starts you where you are. That's the best part. Like, it starts you where you are in fear, and it leads you out with simple steps that will bring you back to the memory of who you are and who your brother is. So one of the things we do around here is we really encourage people to do the workbook lessons. So this book has 3 parts. It has a text, a workbook, and a manual for teachers. And it's the workbook lessons that are the practical application of the Course, and it's self-study. So you need to do it by yourself. You can't just listen to other teachers. You created a world with your own thought system of your own false limiting beliefs. And it's a story. Like, my name is Lisa. I have 2 sisters. I have a mom and a dad. I'm from New Hampshire. I went to 2 colleges. I had a dog. Seems harmless, right? Seems harmless. But it's all about separation. And in the reversal, you have to start telling a new story. I'm the light of the world. I am whole and perfect. I am one with God. I am one with you. And so it really becomes a place now where you start living in a new way. So I can still remember my story, but I'm not attached to it anymore. And what it says here, there is no middle ground in any aspect of salvation. You accept it wholly or accept it not. Either there is a gap between you and your brother, or you are as one. There is no in between, no other choice, and no allegiance to be split between the 2. A split allegiance is but faithlessness to both, and merely sets you spinning round to grasp uncertainly at any straw that seems to hold some promise of release. Yet who can build his home upon a straw and count on it as a shelter from the wind? So I just want to stop there, and I'm going to bring James up now, and you can do whatever you want. We normally take a break around 11:30, but what happened with James? We just met him. We met him at a wedding on Saturday with Vicky. Vicky's sister's son got married, and one of the things I love about what this path is going to start to do for you, it is going to make you totally free. Bill and I have been so busy. We just got back from Denmark. We went there for a Course in Miracles retreat. We came back for a couple days. We then had another, 4-night, 5-day retreat in Maine with a lot of people. The human mind wants to plan. It wants to say, I have to get ready. I have something in the future that requires me to, make sure we know what we're going to talk about. Jesus in A Course in Miracles is saying, be here now in this moment and trust in me. And we had been invited to this wedding, and Vicky, this is so funny, because Vicky emailed me 4 times, are you coming to the wedding? And I would say, no, we're busy. And she didn't get the message though. So 4 times she emailed me over the course of 4 days. So the wedding's on Saturday. I look forward to seeing you. I was like, okay, but we can't come. And then she would say it like the next day. So I hope you can come to the wedding on Saturday.
Because I got no response.
I know, but I thought I was responding. So for some reason, but that's the beautiful part. When you're meant to be somewhere, you're going to keep getting the the message.
Right.
It's like it's gonna keep coming until you hear it. And so Bill and I were gonna do this big long program. We were gonna figure out what we were gonna do on Sunday, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday. We were gonna put all the content in. We were gonna send this thing over to Staples. And we were like, well, why don't we just put down what time breakfast, lunch, is, dinner is, and then leave the whole rest of the store blank
And then go to the wedding.
for notes. And so we actually didn't think of that yet. We just decided, let's just make it simple and let the Holy Spirit show up and see what happens. And so he kind of was like, yeah, let's do that. So we were driving down here last Friday, and now we don't have to plan on Saturday, so we thought, I said, you could go to that wedding. You want to go to that wedding? He's like, yeah. And it's like a 3-hour drive, 2 ways, so that's a 6-hour drive on Saturday, and it was so fun. And then we got to meet James there, and somebody said to me, what he's going to do, I think today, what he did on Sunday was, he is going to introduce, starting on January 1st, the workbook lessons of A Course in Miracles in a musical form. He'll probably describe it, but has found, with the help of some other people, a sound vibration with tuning forks, and he's been recording all the lessons so far. He's up to like 180, so as far as on Sunday went. And starting on January 1st, they're going to be made available for free. And somebody came up to me at the wedding and said, bad news, Lisa, because I'm also doing the workbook lessons starting January 1st with a commentary, just to inspire. I just have this vision that millions of people are going to be doing that workbook lessons. And so they came up to me and said, bad news, Lisa. Competition. James is doing the workbook lessons and he's starting on January 1st just like you. And I instantly thought, I have to help him. It was like that instant, there's no competition in the mind of God. And I went to Bill and I said, we have to help him. And that's how this whole thing started. It's just like, I don't want to do anything anymore that's like trying to advance anything I'm doing. This is for Jesus. This is God's plan for salvation. To get a message out into the world, there's no need to suffer. There's no need to struggle, to be in pain. So I would like to welcome James Twyman up.
Wow. Isn't this exciting?
Yes.
I mean, I'll just begin by saying that A Course in Miracles is an exciting extension of who you are. What else could it be but that? And there are some people just, sitting there reading, they go to course groups and they discuss what they think he's trying to say. In other words, interpreting around what it says. Instead of just saying, yes, I am that. Something is happening inside me, and it's like something is being awakened and opened in me that I don't understand intellectually, but it is real because it's showing up everywhere in my life. I mean, to me, that's what the Course is. And it's amazing how this can catch fire in so many interesting places that you wouldn't expect. I remember many years ago, to begin, I'll say that I was a Franciscan, not in a previous life, but in this life. I was studying to be a priest, and I was in the order when I was like 18, 19, and I had my first director his name is Father Pius. I always loved Pius. He was such a great name, right? And he was very pious and really lovely guy. And I left and I finished school, and he and I stayed friends. And then about 22 years ago, I began doing A Course in Miracles, and it caught fire within me, and I just felt the excitement of that release. And one day I called up Pius, maybe 2 weeks after I discovered the Course. And he was the pastor at a church in Ames, Iowa at that time. And we were just talking, and I was actually thinking, I wonder if I should tell Pius about A Course in Miracles, because of all the priests that I know, he would probably be the one that would be most open to it. And I hadn't said a word about it, but in the course of the conversation, he said, I want to tell you about something, Jimmy. I want to tell you something that's been happening to me. I'm like, okay, what? He said, well, you know, I've been actually, during my sermons, I've been quoting a book and reading from a book, and I keep it, like, I put a binder around or a cover so that nobody would see the book. And a lot of people have asked me after Mass, wow, what was that you were reading? That was incredible. He said, I never tell them. I never tell them because I know that if I tell them, they're going to have judgment about it. I'm like, is he thinking, is he about to say what I think he's going to say? I said, well, you can tell me. I mean, I'm not going to judge it. What's the book? He said, it's a book called A Course in Miracles. This is 2 weeks after I, really began to give myself to the Course. And I thought, that's amazing. You're up in the pulpit at a Catholic church teaching A Course in Miracles, and they are getting lit on fire by it, but because they don't know where it's coming from, they can't project their judgment onto it and say, oh, that's that New Age thing, or it's this or that. They're just entering into the experience of it because they don't have any judgment.
Awesome.
And that, right off the bat was just the beginning for me. And the way I began to perceive it is, it's like before that decision was made for us to incarnate, it's kind of like when you go to sleep, right before you go to bed, what do you usually do? You set the alarm, right? You decide what time you're going to, some of you do maybe. Often we will decide what time we're going to wake up in the morning. I mean, I knew I had to be here, so I couldn't sleep to my normal 9:30 or so. So I knew I had to get up. So I set my alarm before I went to sleep. And then I fell asleep and I entered into this dream. And in that dream, all sorts of things happened. It was peopled by so many others. And there were things that I did and situations I encountered. And the interesting thing is that when you stay asleep longer than your body wants to, have you ever experienced that where you've slept 9-10 hours and the dream starts to get really chaotic? It's like a natural way that your body's saying, you need to wake up now. Everything starts to get really bizarre and jumbled in your dream. But at one point, the alarm goes off. Who set the alarm again?
You.
I did, right? So I set the alarm before I went to sleep, saying, this is when I'm going to wake up. I'm going to enter into this dream now in order to remember who I really am and wake up at the designated moment. But often what happens is when the alarm goes off, I don't immediately wake up. What I'll do often is I'll integrate the alarm into my dream. And sometimes if it's like brr, brr, going off, in my dream it'll become like a fire truck that parks in front of my house and won't turn off its siren. There is no fire truck. It's the alarm that I set saying this is the time, this is the moment to wake up. And finally I can't stand the fire truck anymore and I realize, oh my gosh, it's the alarm clock, and then I wake up. Well, that's what this is. This is the alarm that you set before you went to sleep.
Oh my gosh.
And you integrated this into your dream. This is the fire truck that doesn't go by, that is blaring its siren saying, wake up, wake up, wake up. I mean, this is no more real than anything else. It's just the alarm clock. And the important thing for us to remember is that you're the one who said it. I'm the one who said it. Isn't that interesting to think about it in that way? Because it continually brings it back to me. I'm the one who chose to be here. I knew what I had to do, that I would forget, that I would enter into this dream, and I would people this dream, and I would project onto all of these imaginary people in my dream. And I may even think that I'm the savior of this dream, and I need to now help everybody in my dream wake up. I think it was Ramakrishna who said that trying to wake up other people is like being in your dream at night and saying, I'm not going to wake up until everybody else wakes up. Guess what? You're going to be there a very long time. Because just as in your night dream, everything here is a projection of that original thought of separation. And we're going to do that for a very long time until the moment comes that the alarm clock goes off. And suddenly I remember, it was just me. I am that. That's just a symbol of the I am experience that we are all undergoing right now. And you mentioned the Moses Code, and it was such an amazing experience to write that book and to make that movie. I don't think I told you this story when I was at the retreat, but I'll tell you one really quick thing that shows you how judgment comes full circle. I saw a movie that some of you may have seen. It was called The Secret. Did I tell this story at the retreat?
No.
You told it to me at the wedding, but I don't think you told it
Okay.
to her.
Well, I saw The Secret, and I remember thinking, well, it's a well-done film, and it's probably going to touch a lot of people, but oh my God, I'm really scared. Because this movie, basically, it presents what I like to think of as the ego's law of attraction. And the ego's law of attraction is summed up in the phrase, I want that. Okay, whatever it is out here, a car, a house, a new relationship, I want that. In other words, I don't have that, but I can use spirituality and spiritual law in order to attract that thing I don't have into my life. And the ego's law, the interesting thing is it does work. The ego does have the power to manifest. But the problem is that what the ego manifests will never satisfy the true longing of my soul. Because both of them have its own version of the law of attraction. The foundation of the ego's law of attraction is I want that. The foundation of the soul's understanding of the law of attraction is simply I am that. I am that. The name of God that was given to Moses when he stood in front of this burning bush, and he sees this thing that he doesn't understand, but he feels a presence, and this presence tells him to do something that seems impossible, to go to the most powerful man in the world and tell him to release all of the Israelite slaves. And Moses in that moment realizes, well, I can't do that. I mean, who shall I say sent me? No one at that point had ever basically asked God, what is your name? Who am I going to say sent me? And God said, Ahiyeh Asher Ahiyeh. I am that I am. Tell them that I am sent you. And Moses became the full embodiment of the I am energy. So we decided at first I decided to write a book. And actually Vicki was one of the first people I ever talked to. I said, I need to write a book, and she gave me some great guidance that really helped. And then when the book was done, we decided to make a movie, and I spent a whole year working on this film and interviewing different people and editing. And when the film was finished, I showed it to a few people, Debbie Ford and a couple of other friends who are filmmakers. And I remember we finished watching it, and I looked at them and I said, especially to Debbie, I said, well, what do you think? I mean, do you like it? She goes, it's okay. I was like, ouch. Yeah. I worked a year on this and it's just okay. She said, yeah, it's just okay. I mean, it's not as good as I was hoping it would be. I'm like, oh, great. But then one of the guys that was there in the room, he said, you know what, I agree with Vicki. It's okay, but you have everything that you need. And in fact, I haven't had 2 weeks off in a couple of years. And if you want, you and I can work together 24 hours a day for the next 2 weeks. And I promise you, if we do that, it'll be great. In fact, at that point, I mean, the movie was literally being released in a month. So he wants to spend the next 2 weeks doing this. We already had, at that point, 400 screens. It was probably shown here, because it was shown in churches all over the country, all over the world. We already had about 400 of them at that point. And he wants to take the next 2 weeks and completely redo it. It was one of the hardest decisions I ever made, but I said yes. And for the next 2 weeks, we worked day and night. We ended up reshooting 70% of the film we reshot in 2 weeks. All of the Michael Beckwith stuff, all the Mary Men and Morrison, so much of it we didn't even have before. We ended up re-editing 100%, rescoring 100%, and by the time it was done, it's what you guys saw at the retreat. Now here's the interesting thing. I told you that my friend, worked with me on those last 2 weeks. The guy who did that, his name is Drew Harriott, the director of The Secret. The guy who directed the movie that I was like, oh my gosh, you're kidding me. This is the message.
Wow.
This is what is, selling millions of copies. We're in trouble.
Yeah.
It was my judgment. And I said, this conversation needs to be continued. Well, Drew felt the same thing. And so when this came along, he jumped in, and it brought it out of that I want that message back into I am that. And one of the things that you touched on, which I think is really exciting, that actually in the movie Ianla Van Zandt talked about. She said that so often we spend all of our time. It's amazing how many times during the day we will use the name of God to manifest the reality that we experience, but usually to manifest what we are not rather than what we are. We say, I am fat, I am ugly, I am lonely, and so shall you remain. Because you are literally using the name of God to manifest that reality in your life. What would happen if we consciously made a decision to, instead of using the I am to affirm what we are not, to use it to affirm the truth within us? I am holy. I am one. I am the light of God. And had that practice. Well, one of the best ways to do that is to sing, is to chant.
Amen.
And yeah, I mean, it goes so much deeper. Like I always say, St. Augustine once said, when you sing, you pray twice. Isn't that beautiful? The way I think about it is when I'm talking to you right now, you process everything that you're hearing through these intellectual filters. It goes in the front door. The cool thing about music and art is that it slides around through the back door, and it enters in without those filters. And so we experience the energy in a way that we don't as we process intellectually. That's the beauty of music. So, I've been not rediscovering, but re-embracing the Course in a really amazing way in the last year or so. And I knew for me, and therefore it had to be for all of us, that it was time for a revival. It was time to light a fire.
That's right.
I mean, this is the most amazing gift, in the last 2,000 years, right? 2,000 years ago when Yeshua was actually walking on the planet, and he's expressing this to the people around him, and they're on fire. But the funny thing is that it all ended badly as far as they were concerned by taking their teacher and crucifying him like a common criminal, to the point that they all went and hid and went from the most empowered people to the most frightened people, until 3 days later, what happened? Resurrection. He proved that there is no death. And they went from being the most frightened people hiding behind closed doors to being the most empowered people literally in the history of the world. They could not do anything but share that teaching. And everyone but John was martyred for it. They all were killed because they were on fire with the message of Jesus. And now, 2,000 years later, it's time for us to receive. I like to wonder what Jesus was saying to them when they were sitting around the fire at night. Not the stuff that's in the Gospels when he's out telling stories and parables, because he knew that the masses weren't ready for the inner teaching. But when he was with his friends around the campfire at night, he was telling them this. He was teaching the course. What else would he be teaching? Well, in the last 2,000 years, we've been tilling the soil to the point that we are now ready. Now the masses are ready for this. And that is the only reason why this alarm clock is going off.
Nice.
It's the only reason why this is now a physical reality, so that it's not about you, it's about me. And that's what we all say. It is about me saying yes to this message and saying, I am that. Not I want that, but I am that. So that's what this revival is all about. Is let's see what would happen if we had tens of thousands or hundreds of thousands of people every single day chanting and singing the lessons. And
Awesome.
actually having a direct, full experience, not just intellectual, not through the front door, but through the back door. And so, as Lisa said, I started recording the lessons, and I would send them to Vicki, and she was the only one that was hearing them for a while because I needed some feedback. And we also took, I did a CD with Wayne Dyer on this thing called the I Am frequency. Without going too much into that, these two tuning forks that are literally the sound of the name of God. And so I thought maybe what we could do is, do we have time just to share that one chant real fast?
Yes.
Because I don't want to...
Are you sure? I don't think it's going to be any other way. Are you sure?
I love the back door.
I love the back door.
Let's do this. My favorite one that I've recorded so far is lesson 188, which is the peace of God is shining through me now. Okay? So, those of you who are at the retreat, you already know what this sounds like.
Oh, yeah.
There are actually three parts. The first goes, the peace of God shining in me now. The peace of God shining in me now. The peace of God shining in me now. The peace of God is shining in me now. Imagine that running through your head all day long. And you're singing that, and you just, throughout the day, you just find yourself being filled with more and more light. And then the other part is then it really picks up and it goes, shining in me now, shining in me now, shining in me now, shining in me now.
Yeah.
So why don't we...
And then there's some drums. I love the drums.
There are a lot of drums, yeah. There are a lot of drums. So let me just see how loud we can get this thing. Why don't everybody stand up?
And if you close your eyes, no one can see you.
This won't be too loud, but let's all stretch. Let's embrace the peace of God. Me now, the peace of God shining in me now. The peace of God shining in me now. The peace of God is shining in me now. The peace of God shining in me now. The peace of God
Stoked.
Yeah.
Bring that light back inside. Remembering the chant of the soul, I am that. You can't want something that is already within you. The peace of God is shining in me now. Right now.
The peace of God shining in me now. The peace of God shining in me now. The peace of God shining in me now. The peace of God is shining in me now.
So breathe in the sound of the name of God. I am that. I am. Knowing that this is not only God's name, but it's your name. It is the only name. We embrace that now. Everything I perceive, I am that. So it is. So let the peace of God shine through you, and I hope that you'll help spread the word. This coming year and all these, the music and everything that we're going to share is not only for those of us who are already Course students, but what a great way to introduce Course in Miracles to people who have never even heard about it, through music and through dance and expression. Also, this is, you know, something you said about identity really touched home for me. One of the things I said to Vicki the other day is that this is not the Jimmy Twyman show. This is the all show. And this is, oh, that's good, the all show. And so that's why we're inviting everyone to be part of that. You know, Bill and Lisa to be an integral part of this. Every week for us all to be sharing and expressing and extending into this community. The certainty that we have found through this amazing alarm clock. And so I hope that you'll share this. Come to the event on the 4th. It's going to be a celebration. It'll be the first one that we do. And just keep saying yes.
Yes.
Amen.
Thank you.
Thank you, Jimmy.